Welcome to Product Owner Mission Impossible. This actually has a great big question mark here, because while I will try and provide some answers in this presentation is really by way of asking you, do we ask too much of the people we call product owners? Do we set our product owners up to fail? And when I say product owner, by the way, yes, I am building on the Scrum definition of product owner, but I think generally as an industry, it is a term we have adopted. So even teams that aren't explicitly doing Scrum or doing some kind of Scrum light tend to know the term product owner. I think Kanban have a similar concept as service owner or something, I can't remember. Kanban's very changing its acronyms. So, you know, this role of the person who says what we should be building, and we'll talk some more about exactly what the role is, that we generically call a product owner, is specifically in the sense of Scrum. Do we ask too much of this person? Are we setting these people up to fail by the way we are, what we're asking to do, the way our organizations relate to them, and the way we support them? So that's a question for you. So you tell me, when we get to the end and we get to questions and answers, you tell me whether my hypothesis is wrong or whether there's something in my hypothesis. I will try and make this a bit more productive. I will try and answer some of my own questions and suggest some ways which you may be able to help a product owner achieve the impossible. Before we get started, questions for you. Are there any product owners in the theatre tonight? Get them up against the wall. Anyone ever worked with a truly excellent product owner? Few hands up. Yeah, there's a few people who aren't sure whether they're putting their hands up or not. I honestly think product owner is the most difficult role to fill. If you think about this rationally, on a typical team you have multiple developers, and you either have developers who actually understand testing, or you'll have multiple testers. If you have neither of them, eject. If your developers don't take testing seriously and you've got no testers, you're on a hiding to nothing. There is some evidence that if you've got developers who take testing seriously, you can get by without testers. So if you look at a productivity curve, the two ends of the curve, the final distributions out at the end of the standard distribution, the most highly productive teams appear to be teams without testers. And the lowest productivity teams also appear to be teams without testers. But in the middle you have testers. But you typically have more than one tester. You have other people to talk about testing with. But we tend to have one product owner. And when we do have multiple product owners, it tends to become a bit of a mess. And it really annoys me that Scrum Master overshadows product owner in the Scrum world. Without the product owner, who knows what you're doing? Who knows what the right thing to do is? But in the Scrum world, Scrum Masters get all the attention, don't they? So I think it's a role which is really important, but we don't really pay enough attention to. So here's my question: do we set them up to fail? My hypothesis is that the product owner is the most important role. And I think Scrum specifically asks too much of the product owner, and our organizations ask too much of our product owners. I've seen situations where organizations have bought into the Agile, specifically Scrum idea that we don't need managers, we don't need project managers specifically, but they don't remove the management work. The management work still exists. And then they look around and say, okay, so who looks like a manager who could take on this management work which can't be done because there's no managers anymore? Product owner. Dump on the product owner. I think many organizations don't really understand the product owner role, which actually is really damn clear if you work in one of those environments, like some people I overheard on the bus last night who talked about how product owners report to their project managers. Product owners reporting to product managers is a distinct smell. Managers are, look at the words, a hired gun. Managers are hired by owners to fill roles. Owners own the shit. Who are the most important people in your organization? The people who own it. Who gets to decide who is on the board? The owners, the shareholders. Owners come above managers. But in organization after organization, you find a situation where owners report to managers. The only place in the real world you find that is in banks, where the owners take a back seat when it comes to dividend and the managers put their hand in a pot for the bonus pool. Yeah? So, owners are the superior role. That's why I say organizations don't understand the product owner role. And also, I don't think organizations support the product owner enough. Organizations don't give them the authority, the legitimacy, the training, the backup in many ways. You know, one of the common failures you see is the product owner sits with the team, they do the planning meeting, and the next day somebody else comes along and says, oh no, the product owner told you wrong, or the product owner didn't know about something that was happening, and somebody else jumps in with priorities. So that's my hypothesis. In 40 minutes, you can tell me whether you think I'm onto something here or whether it's baloney. I did write a book on this the other year, The Art of Product Ownership, which has kind of disappeared. Partly you can put that down to COVID. Partly, a funny thing happened about a book on ownership, which only really dawned on me yesterday. I lost ownership of it. The other books I've written in the last few years, like Little Book, I own, they're on LeanPub, they're self-published. I'm responsible for everything about it. But as I was writing this book, the product ownership book, which was always intended to be a companion to this one, a publisher came along to me and said, hey, we'd like to publish your book. And here's a $2,000 advance. And I said, way, I'll sign up for that. What I discovered was the moment I delivered the final manuscript and they paid the advance, I lost interest in the book. I lost ownership by giving it away. And then it went through a copy editing process, which frankly was an embarrassment. If you know me, you know I'm dyslexic. My English ain't my first language. Yeah, it's rubbish. And I rely on my copy editor, and I have a great copy editor for most of my self-published books. He lives in Penzance. But this one, I didn't have control over that. And I was embarrassed by the copy editing process. So I lost ownership of this one, and subsequently I've kind of almost forgotten it exists. Vulnerability again. So let's go back to where does product owner come from? Scrum. From the Scrum book of 2002, it's getting a bit old now, but the important thing I want to highlight, one person responsible. Product owner is one person, not committee. Only one person responsible. There's also the word single in there. You know, this is big on singletons. There's one of these people. You got the message. I mean, this is all well and good, but sometimes it's just too much work for one person to do, particularly if you've got a large development team, particularly if you've got a lot of customers, particularly if you've got a fast-changing market, particularly if you need to coordinate with other people. I mean, it's very good. What they're trying to get to here is they don't want people second-guessing the product owner. They don't want people coming along and upsetting the authority of the product owner. They don't want many cooks spoiling the broth. But at the same time, we end up lumping a lot of work onto product owners right out of the gate. Here we are again. Scrum says a team consists of, teams are self-organizing and cross-functional. Self-organizing teams choose rather than being directed. You get the message. The team have authority. The power is with the team, right? All clear? Except the team is responsible. The team are equals. The team are peers. Except there's one person on the team who we'll call a product owner who gets to tell the team what to do. Is there a conflict here? I ran directly into it. It's something that hadn't dawned on me until a couple of years ago. And I was faced with a developer saying, look, Scrum says the team self-organise. Scrum says the team get to choose what to do. So what right is the product owner to come along here and tell us what to do? And yeah, there's kind of a point there. I think, you know, the way I've always understood it is the product owner is about what you're building, is about calling out the priorities on the thing you're building. how you organise to do that, perhaps even how you schedule out work, certainly how you divide the work up amongst team members, is largely for the team. The team will have input into what the product owner is asking for. The team will work with the product owner. The team will talk with the product owner. But at the end of the day, if there's a choice between A or B, it's the product owner who gets to choose. But that actually conflicts with what Scrum says about self-organizing teams. So let's get down to, what do product owners do, or what should they be doing? Because sometimes product owners are just project managers who no longer exist, who had their title changed. It boils down to our old friend here. Project managers in the room, you recognize this? You all got trained in your friend, the iron triangle. I like to label it slightly differently. One side is the what. Features, we could say features here, we could say functionality, we could say scope, we could say all of that, but all kind of wrong. One side is time, and one side, well, people usually put cost on that. I don't like cost either, because cost in our industry, in the software industry, largely in the tech industry, cost is a function of time and people. And we have time on here already. So cost isn't the right thing to put here. The thing to put here is people. Yeah? Because as we get more time, the cost goes up. As you get more people, the cost goes up. You can back calculate cost. And this what side, I used to study economics. I think of this as the demand side. The what are we building? What functionality should it have? What features should it have? How should it perform? All those kind of questions about what it is we want. And this is where the product owner is centered. The product owner is all about the what. And if you want to boil the differences down between traditional development, Prince 2 style development, if you like, and Agile style development, it is exactly this. Traditional project managers are trained in cost, resources, time. Traditional project managers are given a requirements document on a silver plate, and their job is to work out how long it will take, how much it will cost, and to bring all of that in on time, on budget, all the rest of it. In the Agile world, this is constantly in play, the what we are building. Time, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, quarter, year. Time comes around. There's always more time, but we work in time chunks. And what can we build in the next chunk of time, given the people you have for the moment? So the fundamental question for the product owner is, what are we building? What are we doing next? So what you really want is the product owner walks into your sprint planning meeting and they can call the shots for the next 2 weeks. If your product owner can't do that, you've got a problem. Well, you're either doing Kanban or you've got a problem. So here's our team. It's very simple. And if you've seen this film Chicken Run, you know exactly what I mean. Requirements go in, chicken pies come out, and working software comes out. So the product owner's job is to decide what goes in. In some environments, the right person to do this is a subject matter expert. It is somebody who knows the domain, who's probably done the job, somebody who understands the ins and outs of this. You get into very scientific fields, you get into complex insurance and so on. It makes perfect sense to have a subject matter expert saying what needs to be done, because you need the detailed knowledge there. Unfortunately, subject matter experts, because they are so steeped in their subject, sometimes don't see very far. Their horizon's limited because they're so in the mix of what's happening. Sometimes the right person feeding the requirements is a business analyst. And business analysts usually, or traditionally, work in organizations which are building products for themselves or products for a specific customer. And all those business analyst skills of analyzing what's needed, analyzing processes, talking to stakeholders, performing prioritization, they're still really valuable and they're really useful. And then, what happened there? Okay, the other role you get here is a product manager. And for me, product managers were once upon a time the secret sauce of Silicon Valley. When I went and worked in California, I'd never met a product manager. Almost every other person I met in Silicon Valley was a product manager. The rest of the world didn't know about product managers. The product manager's job is to use many of the same skills and tools as a business analyst, but whereas the business analyst looks inside the organization to find out what is needed, the product manager looks outside the organization. You know, a product manager at HSBC can go up and down a lift all day and all the people they need to talk to is in that building. The product manager, by definition, the people they need to talk to are not in the building. The product manager is selling to customers outside. Now, these three types of people can all feed requirements in, and they can all fill a type of product owner role. They all are fulfilling the duties of a product owner as Scrum would see it. It's a case of horses for courses. Sometimes the right person to feed in requirements is a subject matter expert. I have seen companies like this, particularly companies who are working in groundbreaking technological settings. You know, their subject matter experts have PhDs in this stuff. Sometimes the right person to feed stuff in is a business analyst because they've analysed the hell out of this business and they understand what's needed. And sometimes the right person is a product manager. So all these people can fulfill the duties of a product owner. Once upon a time, I used to stand up here and I used to say, a product owner was a subject matter expert or a business analyst or a product manager or perhaps somebody else. Today, I stand here and I say, the market has decided, plus the fact that this little thing called digital, these worlds are colliding, and the product owner today is a subject matter expert and a business analyst and a product manager and some more. These days, your product owner needs to understand the domain. It's very difficult to parachute somebody in who doesn't know your business. You can kind of get away with it sometimes, but it's very difficult just to drop somebody in. They also need business analysis skills because these days, you know, we don't have a clear differentiation between what is in-house products and what is out-house. Go back 23, 24 years ago, the first time I flew to the USA, I went down to a travel agent. And a young lady, and there's always a young lady, sat behind a green screen and told me what flights there were. Some archaic terminal, yeah? All airline systems 25 years ago were internal. They were all a business analysis problem because customers never saw their systems. Today, what flight you book, no, tomorrow what flight you book, because no one's been flying lately, the flights you book now may come down to who has the best interface, whose product presents itself better. It's more of a product management job because you're serving customers outside. But those same products have an inside dimension and an outside dimension. So these two worlds of business analysis and product manager are no longer clearly differentiated as inside the corporation and external customers. They've kind of collided. You're building systems that are outward facing and customers can use them, but they then cut through and your internal people are dealing with them too. So today product owners need all these type of skills, and depending on your domain, you may need more business analysis skills and subject matter expert skills, or you may need more product management skills and business analysis skills, or you may need more of them. It's a question of what skills do you need. You probably need a mix of all of these. Some people need more business analysis, some people need more product management, etc., etc. Whatever the skills are, there's 4 things the product owner needs. And if I had longer, I could go through them all in detail, but we'll just start high level here. Number 1 is, as I was just saying, you need the skills. It is not acceptable to take a developer who's been working on the product for a few years and say, thou shalt be the product owner. Since when did that developer get out and meet customers? They may have met some customers. They may be willing to get out and meet customers, but unless they start meeting more customers, they're not going to give you a reliable indicator of what customers want and what customers value, what users value, what stakeholders value. Unfortunately, many organizations faced with saying, oh, we're doing Scrum, we need a product owner, he's a rather good developer, let's make him product owner. When you make a developer, particularly when a developer stays coding, and you make them product owner as well, you set up a conflict in their head. You are asking them as a coder to sympathize and empathize and understand the code and to fight for the code. And you're also asking them to sympathize and empathize with the customers and the users and to fight for the users. You know that picture Kevlin had yesterday of Tron? He fights for the users. Yeah? And you set up a conflict in one person's head, and that's not good. So, yeah, coders can become product owners, but you need to leave your old self behind and try to combine the two, set you up for a conflict. As some of you heard me say yesterday in Andrew's presentation, when you've got a platform product, that's a particular problem. When you are supplying other people in your organization, it's not enough to look at the technical question. You need to think longer and harder about what will truly add value to the business. So product owners need skills. Maybe business analysis, maybe subject matter, maybe other stuff. They also need authority. And this largely comes from the organization. The organization needs to recognize the product owner has the authority to walk into a Scrum planning meeting and say, for the next 2 weeks, these will be our priorities. Yes, things may go wrong. I may need to make some difficult decisions in the meantime if some unexpected work comes up. But on the whole, excuse me folks, gets me in my mouth. On the whole, the product owner needs to be able to walk into the meeting and have authority to say what the team's going to be doing for the next 2 weeks. Some product owners need more authority to think about the next 6 weeks, the next quarter, the next year, God knows what, but at least the next 2 weeks. And the organization needs to respect that authority. Not all organizations give the product owners the authority they need. Product owners also need legitimacy from their peers and from their teams. Another problem I've seen is where somebody has been made up to a product owner, but the team don't believe that's the right person. The team don't have trust in that person. The team thinks somebody else should have done it or whatever. And consequently, they don't necessarily respect the decisions of the product owner, or they're constantly fighting with the product owner about what the priorities are. And technical debt's often the battlefield there. But you know, they're fighting with the product owner. The product owner doesn't have legitimacy. And somewhere between these two, the product owner needs to be able to say, now in the post-COVID world, they can say it again. I think in my mouth. The product owner needs to be able to say, you know what? I need to go and visit a customer in Helsinki. I need to get on a plane. I need to spend 2 nights in a hotel, and I need to go to Helsinki. And I have the legitimacy and authority to damn well do it. I don't have to fight the organization to let me spend money on an airfare. Because if your product owners aren't speaking to customers, well, they're guessing, aren't they? Finally, product owners need time. They need time to do all the ceremonies you're doing in Scrum or Kanban or whatever, and they also need the time to do their homework. Remember what Kevlin said about the framework of Scrum is incomplete, you've got to fill it in. One of the big bits that's missing there is, how does the product owner know what they need to know in order to write the user stories, prioritize the user stories, determine business value, etc., etc.? There is homework for a product owner to do, like getting on a plane and going to Helsinki and talking to customers. Yeah? Perhaps analyzing the market, looking at competitors. If the product owner doesn't have time to do that, you're back to guessing. Yeah? So 4 things every product owner needs. So I'll talk some more about the skills thing. So product owners, they need the skills, basic level, need the skills to do the work. So again, Scrum's the framework, it's incomplete. So what Scrum says about product owners' skills is a starting point. Product owners need the skills of Scrum product owner or Kanban product owner skills, whatever it is you're doing. You know, they need to understand the routines, the ceremonies, they need to understand their role. Then they need the skills to do that work so they understand it. So perhaps, sorry, forgot about it. Yeah, I went through one of the Scrum product owner training courses, and I pulled out the key skills they were talking about: Scrum, Agile values, principles, epic stories, defining the backlog, writing user stories, prioritizing stories, estimation, planning, project planning. Yeah, it was there. But what I don't see here is talking to customers, interviewing customers, SWOT analysis, business value determination, ROI calculations, etc., etc. So these skills are necessary, but they are not sufficient. We need to add to this skill set. So you need to know what is wanted, the homework, the skills of the subject matter expert, the business analyst, or the product manager to go and find out what is needed. I'll post the slides online and the organisers will distribute them, so don't feel as though you have to photograph everything. Just a really attractive slide. So, Scrum product owner, I say they're going to need some product management skills. They're going to need some business analysis skills. Depending on where you sit, you may need more of one and less of the other. You'll need some subject matter expertise. What else would you throw in here? Audience participation time. What else would you like to add in here? People skills, I think. No, that's not my next one. That is come up in a moment. Yes? People skills are gone. Anyone else? Research skills, yes. Anyone else? Leadership. Yeah, I think there's an element of leadership in there as well, yeah. Maybe not always a formalized leadership position on the hierarchy, but definitely leadership skills to be able to say to people, hey, let's go build this, and people want to do that. It's part of the legitimacy question. I think there are some project management skills, unfortunately. You know, as I said before, product owners are not project managers. Project managers traditionally about the when and how much, and product owners are about the what. But there are elements of delivery that sneak in, and in some organizations, they kind of view the product owner as a new type of project manager, which I think is wrong, but you need some there, so very small amount. Yeah, product owners spend the time thinking about the when. Product owners who spend all the time thinking about the when are just backlog administrators. I don't know if you've seen this, there's a whole bunch of product owners, and they usually don't meet many customers, and their days are spent shuffling user stories around in the backlog and moving them up and down, and all they're doing really is administering the backlog. There's somebody else calling the shots. So hopefully they're lesser skills. I'll also throw in here the skills of an entrepreneur. I don't know if you've seen this, but there's several blogs and pieces been written over the years that say product owners need the skills of an entrepreneur. I was talking to someone the other day, and they were saying that their product owners were asked to think, or their teams are saying that they own the product, that they're spending their own money, and it's like they're developing their own business, which kind of makes sense in one way, but you know, the skills of an entrepreneur to make this product a success. My question is, which entrepreneur? Who is your role model entrepreneur? Name, rank, and serial number. Suggestions, please. Elon. Yeah, Elon. I've got Elon here. There's one I thought you'd say before Elon. Alan Sugar. Oh, yeah. Cockney boy made good. Yeah, good example. Anyone else? Branson, yeah. I thought everyone would go for Branson. Branson and Musk were the ones I thought. But you know what? They both have their dark sides, don't they? Branson's not always the most organised person, if you've ever worked inside one of his companies. And Musk has a habit of tweeting stuff out, which upsets people. You know, Jobs is another name that comes up. And Jobs was famously a bit of a bully who shouted at people. You know, talking about product owners like entrepreneurs is like talking about software developers like rock stars. You know, there's a dark side to them. You know, maybe entrepreneurs don't go around smashing up their instruments, but they can drive people really hard. They can drive people to work silly hours. They can rack up a lot of debt. I don't mean technical debt, I mean debt. You know, they can do some bad things with their organization. So, and also remember, the world's most successful entrepreneur of all time. I don't know why you're laughing. How many get to turn the US presidency into a business proposal? You know, that's brains. Yeah? Yeah. Trump never started an airline like Branson, but Trump should have, because I've heard the... do you know how you make a small fortune in the airline business? Start with a large fortune. Apparently, if you took the money Trump inherited from his dad and put it into the S&P 500 tracker and left it there, you'd have more money than Trump today. But, you know, many people, particularly in America, consider him a role model entrepreneur. How would you like it if he was your product owner? So before you start saying product owners or entrepreneurs, I want you to think about your role model entrepreneurs, right? But there is something in there. We can keep on adding to this. They need business and marketing skills. They need interpersonal skills, somebody mentioned before. They need facilitation skills. The list goes on and on and on. We could ask a lot more here. Are we looking for superheroes in our product owners? I think some organizations are. I'm a really big fan of the work of Marty Kagan. I know his work was mentioned in some of the presentations yesterday. If you're in the product space and you're not reading Marty Kagan, go do it. His blog, his newsletter is well worth the time it spends to read once a fortnight or something. He's written a couple of books, well worth reading. He's very much in the product management space, and he's very much a Silicon Valley product manager. I love what he says, and I agree, all 99% of the time with him, but I think the way he describes product managers, they are kind of superheroes. I don't think there's actually that many of them. I think most of them will live within 30 miles of Palo Alto, and they get paid for it. Yeah? So the chances are you do not work with a product manager superhero like Marty Kagan knows, but read Marty Kagan, use him and his work as a role model. But you think about superheroes. We ask so much of these people. Is this too much? And do our companies provide the training and support? Yeah? Product owners in the room. You've all been on a product owner course? Yes? Yeah? Any product owner in a room not been sent on a Scrum product owner course? Hands up. Oh, there's one there, yeah? It's not uncommon, you don't find that. Been on a business analysis course? Somebody's nodding their head, they have been here. Been on a product management course? Interpersonal skills? All that skill set takes time to develop. So, we don't necessarily support them. Where do we find them? We can go and poach them from other places, and that drives the costs up. So my hypothesis is that there's so much for a product owner to do and so many skills they need that a lot of the time we're setting them up to fail. So time, So before, time to talk to customers, talk to users inside the organization, talk to stakeholders, attend stand-ups, planning meetings, retrospectives, write user stories, break down user stories, find user stories, acceptance criteria, work on code with codes and tests. Work on user stories with the coders and the testers, because user stories are a placeholder for conversation. There should be an R in there. Maintain the business case, understand the market. Forecast completion dates. This list goes on. There isn't the time in a week for a product owner to do this, because they're people as well. Your product owners should have families. I suspect some of those in Silicon Valley have just passed that by. So product owners are people too. They need to have time for themselves, time to relax. How do we help product owners? The skills bit is the easy bit. Skills is relatively easy to fix. We just need to spend the money and make the time, buy the training, go on the courses. At the very least, go and buy some books and read them. Skills is easy to solve because it's a time and money problem. Okay? Some of the other things are more difficult. Time is the hardest one to fix. So product owners, first of all, you need to stop doing things. True strategy, true prioritization is when you're calling out things you're not going to do. So if you're one of those product owners who still dabbles in the code, stop it. Suppose for a moment you are a product owner with a team of 5 and you've got a spare hour. How can you add the most value to your product in the next hour? Is it by A, pulling out a quick user story, dabbling in the code, changing something, committing the changes? Or is it B, by looking at your backlog, looking at your stories, looking at your OKRs, and going and working out how those things add value and how you could get them to add more value, going and looking at the latest customer research, the latest web stats and all of that, and working out how the work you are going to do can add even more value. So your choice is, either add value by doing it, or add value by ensuring that when your team do work, they are doing the most valuable work and they're maximizing the value from it. I would suggest, in most instances, as a product owner who codes, with a spare hour or two, you would add more value by doing more homework and looking again at the work you're going to feed into the team now or in the near future, rather than doing it. If you really need more stuff doing, well, it's another one you can solve with money. But just stop coding. The other reason to stop coding is you aren't truly a product owner if you're still a coder. And I went through this myself. I was a coder. I got an opportunity to do some product management. And I wanted to do it, but I really didn't want to leave the code. I loved the code. I wanted to get into the code. And it wasn't until I physically moved my desk somewhere else, I'm not coding, that I could really embrace my new identity as a product manager. So a lot of this is about you do what you think you should be doing. Your title sums up your identity, and you choose jobs with titles that agree with your identity. And if you're trying to be two different identities, that's going to be confusing. So stop coding and become a product person. Stop doing line management. Product owners should not be line managers. Okay, you may be the line manager of a more junior product owner type person, but you should not be managing the development team. Two reasons. One, you do not have time. Two, they need to be able to challenge your decisions. They need to be able to talk to you about alternative ways of doing things. And if you are a line manager over them with control over their continued employment, their remuneration, their bonuses, they aren't going to feel so happy about that. I recently worked with a startup where the product owner did have that kind of control over people, and it was not healthy. Developers would tend to nod and say yes and give him the estimate he wanted to hear, and then things wouldn't work out very well. So product owners shouldn't be line managers. Dump that responsibility somewhere else. You focus on the product. The management word in product manager is about managing the thing, not the people. Stop being an amateur UX designer. You see this all the time, especially with BAs. Yeah? How many companies say, we want to be the next Apple, we want a UI that's super cool, and, oh yeah, but the devs know best, or the product manager knows best. Yeah, if you're aiming for a product with a lot of usability, you can't leave it for people to do in their spare time on an amateur basis. Product people should be working closely with UX people because they share a lot in common about understanding customers. But UX people are about crafting the solution, whereas the product people are about understanding the problem and the domain and what will add value. So again, don't split your mind. Get a UX designer in. Stop writing documents. They don't work anyway. They're professional safety blanket. Nobody remembers anything after page 2. Have the conversations. But, again and again, you meet product people who feel as if they need to write everything down. And it's based on this myth that if you can write it down with sufficient clarity and sufficient detail, then all you need to do is drop it over to somebody and then they'll know exactly what to do. And that's never the case. The more you write, the less likely it is to be read. The more you write, if it is read, the less they'll be remembered. The more you write, the more scope there is for ambiguity and misunderstandings. Have the conversations in real time. So stop wasting your time writing documents. So, you can probably think of some more ways to cut down on your time, but these are responsibilities I'd like to see you dump. And get help. Go out and find other people, hire a UX designer, and also product marketing. So typically in a small organization, the product manager, product owner type person does both sides of marketing. Marketing has two sides. One side is when I say marketing, you immediately think adverts, trade shows, press releases, all that. That is outbound market. That is telling people you are here and you have a product. That can be called product marketing. In some places like Silicon Valley, it's called product marketing. It's an outbound activity. Product management, product ownership is about inbound marketing, understanding what your customers want. Pick up any book, any textbook on marketing, and it will tell you, understand your customers, understand your customer segments, understand their problems and all the rest of it, understand what need you're satisfying before you try and market it. But product marketing outbound gets the attention. In a small organization, the product people, whether you call them product owner or product management, frequently ends up doing this as well. And as you grow, one of the cuts you can make is to dump the outbound market into a specialist. They're much better at writing copy than you are. Hire a UX designer, I mentioned. Hire a pre-sales consultant. This is another time waste you see where the product managers end up going out and being the pre-sales consultant. Now, it's good that product managers and product owners can meet customers, but when you're in a sales environment, your objective is to get the customer to sign on the bottom line. I went out to Helsinki once to see a customer, and it was really, I was riding on the back of a sales guy, and when I got to that bit in the session with the customer about what I wanted to do, what I wanted to know how they're using our product, everything the customer said, the sales guy took as a reason why they might not sign a renewal. And so he had to counter everything and explain to the customer was wrong, or we already had that feature. Useless to me in terms of understanding customers. It was very useful for me to go on another occasion and just have the customer myself and talk about how they actually use the product. Product managers often fall into this role of pre-sales consultants. So while it's good to meet customers, you don't really get a lot of customer feedback because you're trying to sell them something. And if you do have a project manager, dev manager, scrum master, one of these type of people in the mix, then lean on them. They can help you. They can take some of the weight off your shoulders. They can do some of the conversations with the team. Where you don't have people like this in the mix, as I said earlier on, the rest of the people in the organization look at the team and say, the team doesn't have a manager, doesn't have a product manager. Who shall I call? Oh, there's a product owner. That sounds like a position of authority. Call the product owner. So if you can have other people in the mix, offload work onto them. And use the team. The team are not code monkeys. You want the team to be part of understanding the solution. You want the team to understand the customers and understand the problem. The team members, the coders and testers, are probably not going out meeting as many customers as you are, but it would be good to get them out to meet the customers sometimes. In some ways, the ideal is that you don't need any of these people. You just have one person who is so multi-skilled and multi-talented, they can talk to customers and they can write code and they can push it out. That works in some instances, but it doesn't work when you need to do bigger things. But keep your team involved. Use your team's brains and feed them information, share information with them, get their opinions. Maybe over time, some of them will grow up to be product owners. And maybe as they're doing that, you can help them and they can help you. So your team is a resource. The other thing you can do is you can refactor the product owner role. I call this strategic and tactical product owner, but you can call them what you like in your organization. This is a model I see companies fall into again and again and again. And done well, it can be really helpful. You have one person who is your strategic product owner, and they are the person who's getting out and meeting lots of customers. They don't work so much with the team. They're thinking long term, they're thinking product, business strategy, plans and all of that. And you've got a tactical person who spends more time working with the team and less time with customers, and they're thinking much more about the coming sprint. The key thing is these two people have to speak with one voice. If they start speaking differently, if they have different priorities, you're going to have problems. Remember, Scrum wanted one product owner because they want one voice on what to do. You can split the role, but these two people need to stay aligned. I like to think that if one of them's on holiday, the other one can deputize for them. They're joined at the hip. So you can refactor it. This also opens the door to where you've got multiple teams working on a product. You could have multiple tactical product owners attached to teams and one strategic product owner looking at the overall product. Finally, don't be a dog's body. Hopefully you've picked up on a few things I've said. Sometimes The rest of the organisation has stuff that needs doing, and it's clearly not coding, and it's clearly not testing. And they scratch their head and they say, who should do this? Oh, there's a product owner. I don't know what he does, so we'll give it to him. And they just offload stuff. So as a product owner, push back. Don't be a sponge and take everything on. I'm a minute over. Sorry about that. There you go. You tell me whether I'm onto something here, whether it is an impossible mission, or whether the hypothesis is right, or whether I've missed something important. Thank you.